Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and I'm so excited today. Joining me is a brand new rock star. He is a brand strategist and a partner at Home Pro Brands. Matt, Chris, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Good to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited about it. So I want to dive right in. This is one of those things where in doing research, this question was tailored, I think, to you, where, I've heard a million times where it's like the quote that they say that 50% of your marketing is not working. The problem is you never know which 50%. And I think we all want to change that. So how do you propose organizations determine where they are wasting marketing dollars?
Yes. Great question, Kirby. So basically my answer to the 50% that we might be missing is really vested in how Home Pro Brands approaches marketing. Okay. So when we look at this space of marketing, we don't see one dimension, we actually see three. Okay. They are three aspects that have to work in tandem. And we, they're familiar categories. The brand itself, right? The marketing. So it's the why, it's the how we get it to market. And then the third piece, which has been revolutionary for us, we've been digging into this for about 5 years now, is integrating customer experience design into our marketing platforms. That's not a new thing. But by taking all three of those things. So the 50%, if you're just doing marketing, you could be missing 75%, right? Right. We really believe that all three of those things working together is the right way to market.
Yeah. So having just like, I think that's the case with a lot of people. It's like you're not using all the tools in the toolbox, for lack of a better term, right? And so if you can go across those platforms, it makes a big difference. So a big piece of our audience are entrepreneurs, right? And as entrepreneurs, most of us have a marketing guy or a marketing gal. So this is one of those behind the scenes questions. What are some things that the marketing guy or gal won't tell us?
Yeah. So it could be any one of a number.
Yeah, right. That's probably too open-ended of a question.
How much I'm billing you this month?
That's fair.
Yeah. So, I think, hey, look, there's so many great marketing people out there. So, I mean, I hate to kind of frame it up and say things, I would be deceptive about it because marketing is a great place. I think, in my travels with clients, I think some of the most deceptive things are ownership and access. And I mean that in the way that, and not, again, I think there's a small percentage of marketing people out there that work this way, but, they bring you in with the promises of leads and things like that. And then you don't realize, especially as a small business owner, that you really don't own the hosting. You don't own the domains, right? You don't have ad account access. So, and then the big one, Kirby, I believe is ownership of the creative. A lot of practitioners and even owners just don't understand that unless that is contractually handed over, in the right way, you don't own it. The original source, or the creative source, actually owns things. So I'd say, that's probably the biggest, not telling piece that's in there. I think the rest of it would really come by way of wisdom, just not having the full perspective on those three things, not having the understanding of the power of a national brand and how it could apply to a local business. Yeah, those are things I think a lot of marketing folks they're not talking about because they just don't know it.
Yeah. So that's interesting to me. When I first got into sort of the marketing field, one of the things I knew, and I'm just going to put it sort of in my wheelhouse, is I started this as a video company, right? And so everybody that was in the business was saying, look, if I'm the video person and I shoot the video, then I own the video. Right. And I was always like, well, but I wouldn't have shot the video for Home Pro Brands if they hadn't paid me to. So it was a point of distinction for me when we first got into it. And so I think that's very interesting. Now, the one thing I would say is I think a lot of entrepreneurs, it's that whole, instead of management by delegation, it's management by abdication, right? Because they're just like, you handle it, you handle it, you handle it. Do you think that part of the reason they don't have admin capabilities because they don't want it, or is it just that they don't know?
It could be both.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think in most cases that I personally encountered, they didn't know it.
Yeah.
They really didn't know that was something that, when they decided to move on, would not move with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see that with domain names all the time. And I'm like, gosh, if the client doesn't own it, that's weird. I agree with you on that.
It's just not right. But yeah.
Cool.
Definitely.
Well, most people think, and again, I guess I would probably fall into this. So I'm curious to get your feedback on this. Most people think if you want to grow, often you need to spend more. I don't think that's always the case, but sometimes you invest in that way. But I've seen that you sort of choose to think differently about that. How do you grow while decreasing your marketing spend?
Yeah, Kirby. So inside the space of home pro brands, we've this formula of working the brand, the marketing, and the customer experience together has really proven itself to lower marketing costs, and it's usually by increasing sales. Like as their revenue is increasing, all right, their marketing budgets are staying the same or dropping a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. How's that happening? In our world, it happens because one, we make a major shift of going from noise to clarity, right? And from that noise to clarity shift, we're focusing in on their ideal customer, right? And everything about that brand, which is translated through the marketing and translated through the customer experience, is really targeted to that ideal buyer, right? And when you're synchronized at that level, you're doing a bunch of things, but one is you're getting the right people into your marketing mix, and you're pushing away the ones you don't want, right? I give you a quick example. I had a guy come to me, a great client, still client, landscaper. He was building gorgeous swimming pools, backyards, fireplaces and kitchens and all that stuff. And he wanted me to run an ad in a local high-end publication because he's trying to reach the affluent market. He had a marketing guy. They were spending a lot of money with Google and digital space and all that, right? And so he said, but he wanted to run an ad. That's why I came. And I told the guy, look, I can't do it. I said, because your brand, like I looked at his website, I looked at the projects, I could tell the work he was doing was outstanding, but his brand looked like a local landscaper, and he was delivering a very high-end product. And so, through our conversations, we obviously did the work. And when we transformed that local brand that was noisy, low quality images into something that was super clean, professional, his marketing return immediately spiked. And then when we got a hold of the marketing and started doing the customer experience design, it continued to go up. So his top number went up, his marketing budget plateaued. And we've seen that over and over again when you're bringing all the right elements to the table.
I love the idea of marketing clarity. That's something that Donald Miller talks about in building your story brand, right? If you confuse, you lose. I think that is and I think that's something to sort of to your point that you just talked about, that I think many of us struggle with as entrepreneurs, because like we don't want to turn away any business, right? Like, and the problem with that sometimes is that people are like, what the hell do you do? And I think so. How do you? And I'm kind of going off script here, I think, a little bit, but I'm curious. How do you convince folks to follow you down the path of that clarity? Follow you down the path of just marketing to those high end clients? Is that hard?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it is, because we get into our own space of how things work, and it is a radical change in terms of how you approach marketing. But I think most people really get the value of it when they, when you say, look, what would it look like? Think about your ideal customer, right? We take time really getting that on the table, discovery and all that good stuff. Think about that ideal customer. What would it be like if if 75% of your customers were that guy or gal, right?
Yeah.
How would that radically change your business?
Yeah.
How would it radically bring in more referrals, right? I mean, there's just all kinds of great things that happen when you've got the right ideal customer engaged in your product service experience. So, they get the logic pretty quick once we can take it apart, really identify it, show them samples of how that works, like how, this is the way it was done before, and it wasn't speaking to that ideal market, right?
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah, that makes sense, because again, I'm the first to say, I mean, I think I struggle with that, even that, and that, you want to be a jack of all trades. You want to say yes, but I think one of the ways that I preach it to my team is that it's not that I'm telling everybody else to go pound sand. It's that I'm not spending dollars and energy going after them. Right. Yes. I'm spending dollars and energy going after the ideal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, Kirby, is I got this over the years of working in this space, really just observing national brands, looking at, their tenacity to get clarity and to be consistent and to be high quality, right? And one of the things that really just motivated me and drove me for years, and still does, is I don't understand why small business can't do the same thing. Now, usually when I have that discussion, they say, well, I'll tell you why, because they got a billion-dollar budget, and I'm a fraction of that. But it's not true. The principles, I think, that consumers, and this would apply to just about all markets, B2B as well, there's a threshold of quality that we trust when we see a national brand, right? Yeah. It's not written. It's like, okay, I feel comfortable with that. And that's that clarity piece, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's subconscious, but it's huge. It makes a huge difference when you can step into that space.
Well, that's awesome, man. I appreciate you taking the time, Matt. This has been really fun.
Yeah. Same here. We'll do it again, right?
Absolutely. We will do it again sometime. So thank you so much. That's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.